The first thing to seek is the idea behind governance, and this is often contained in the program of a political party. It is very important because the extremes of left and right ideologies have perhaps now converged around the center. Indeed, if China and Russia are democratizing, even if some say they are doing so imperfectly, it is clear that the communist or socialist ideologies of economic exchange have proven to become unsustainable. Capitalism itself, in its purest sense, has also had to reinvent itself. Capitalism started on the principle of no credit, everything must be cash. But clearly, capitalism has moved from cash to credit. And for those of us who remember, it is credit itself that almost killed capitalism recently. The question of ideology is important because it lies at the heart of the choice-making for people who participate in election to choose their representatives. At all times, the welfare of the people is the central theme for the canvassing of votes. It is the ideology, often economic outlook, sometimes on the social outlook, that helps to crystallize the difference between the political party machineries. Before concluding on party ideology, because I think that this subject itself can take more than a full lecture, let me say that while some people still delude themselves that there is no difference between our political parties, especially the ruling party and the APC, the main opposition, the differences are emerging daily for those who are discerning enough to notice them. If on major policy issues such as power, security, agriculture, corruption, and unemployment, the main opposition has disagreed with the party in government and has criticized its choices, I wonder what else the party needs to do to prove that there is a difference. If you look at the level of progress and development in the states governed by the old and new opposition parties and governors, there is a clear daylight in terms of development. For example, it is no coincidence that only 2 states, Lagos and Rivers, governed now by APC governors, are executing rail projects on their own mass transit solutions. The party in government has lied about when there will be stable electricity for 16 years. And an APC state, Lagos, has led the way in showing what is possible with its power initiatives in Egmi, Akute, Lagos Island, and Alausa. Ikeja and Lekki power plants will be delivered later this year. The party in power prefers to continue to import fuel with the attendant disruptions and monumental corruption. It cancelled its own concession of moribund refineries. Lagos believes that in a strategic partnership, it is possible, if it provides land, for Nigeria to produce enough petroleum products for consumption and still have the same to export within a 4-year period. And the ruling party, in spite of its lies, is also now sending a clear message to the people. And this is what they are saying. I'm trying to paraphrase all of what they have said into a paragraph. It's difficult. But this is what they are saying. We care about you, but you do not need development, so we will not do any developmental work in 3 years. In the 4th year, we will give you money. We will give you kerosene, and we will give you rice. Please vote for us. And use the money we give you to provide your own roads, your own schools, your own hospitals, and security until we see you again in 4 years' time. End of quote. In the last election in Osun, the APC candidate sought the people's vote on a campaign anchored first on his record of 4 years and a clear developmental and economic agenda to empower the people if re-elected. For the candidate of the other main party, the election was going to be a war. So said no less a person than the vice president of our country, a leading member of that party. The candidate therefore anchored his campaign on an intention to capture Osun. For me, there is clear daylight between these two approaches. Anyone who still pretends not to see this major economic ideological difference will not see the tallest building in the world, even if he stands in front of it. Now, I will go to people and members of that party, because I've started from the structure of democracy itself as a political party. I will now go to the people of the society and the members of the party. And I will start this part with a quote from Bertolt Brecht. And this is what he said, quote, "The worst illiterate is the political illiterate. He hears nothing, sees nothing, takes no part in political life. He doesn't seem to know that the cost of living, the price of beans, of flour, of rent, of medicines, all depend on political decisions. He even prides himself on his political ignorance. He sticks out his chest and says that he hates politics. He doesn't know the imbecile that from his political non-participation comes the prostitute, the abandoned child, the robber, and worst of all, corrupt officials, the lackeys of exploitative multinational corporations." End of quote. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard this. So many people say, I don't want to get involved. Politics is too dirty. But in that sense, we create a very big gap. It is regrettable that majority of the members of our political parties and politicians do not yet incorporate and include the critical elite of our society. They still see politics as something too dirty. Whether we like it or not, history has shown that the elite of any society, especially its professional cadre, and the very best of them, decide the direction of the nation when they come to a consensus about the political pathway for their nation, even if they belong to different political parties. So I ask, where are all the people who have built things with their hands in our country? What are they doing outside government? Where are the founders of our great banks, our great businesses, our telecoms, in our body politic? Are they just content to finance politics and yet remain unwilling to take the plunge? There is unverifiable talk, and I repeat, unverifiable talk, that some of them are willing to identify with the ruling party when they are in Abuja, and also willing to identify with the party in government in their states when they get back to their bases for fear of reprisals. I ask, what do our elite believe? It is only by their belief, which will inform the contributions they can make to fund parties where members pay their dues, where strong values restrain people from decamping whenever the grass is no longer green, that we can really define the kind of politics and ideologies that will drive our country. Truth be told, opposition politics is very tough, and only the committed and true believers see it through. Opposition politics carries its own pain everywhere, and indeed has been the subject of a book called, quote, "How to Be in Opposition, Life in the Political Shadows," end of quote. It was a book edited by Nigel Fletcher, and it provides very useful insight into the challenges of being in opposition. And it also provides some useful tips. Now let me share one tip with you. He subtitles this tip, "Choose your weapons wisely." And this is what he says, quote, "An opposition cannot compete with the government on resources. So you must be inventive. In what is a David and Goliath contest, you can use the advantages of greater agility to aim your slingshot where it can do the most damage. parliamentary ambushes, media attacks, and effective research will wear down ministers and help to expose their mistakes. End of quote. If the opposition is here, I hope they are listening. As you may have heard, in this part of the world, the party in power will accuse you of trying to bring down the government. But truly, this is a tissue of nothing but lies. They have lied about security. The first thing they said was that those who are undermining security were in the government. That was the first statement. Now the story has changed. They say it is the opposition. So all of these things will come. But let me say that this is quite not the same thing as bringing down the country. Because government can be removed by legitimate and constitutional means at the ballot box. Again, according to Nigel Fletcher, quote, bringing down the government was a peculiar day job, and it is. But that is really only the negative side of the job description. With equally lofty ambition, the positive side of opposition could be summed up as, quote, trying to change the world, end of quote. This surely must be something worth doing. Perhaps when all these issues have been put in a proper place, can we then begin to talk of the people, of the party, and what defines the party? This is the difference between a manifesto, which can change. And I want to spend a little time on this, because for a long time, the way we have approached the development of manifestos was to cast a manifesto for a party over a long period. And the little research that I have done is that the manifesto of the oldest political parties in the world changed from election to election as a response to the issues that challenged their nation at the time. So we must also begin, as we rebuild our political parties, to understand that over a 4-year period, the challenges can change, and therefore the manifestos must be responsive to deal with those challenges. So we cannot have manifestos that are cast on 7 cardinal points for all time.